Germany is praising Poland for accepting all returned migrants. In Germany, a week before parliamentary elections, the campaign is in full swing. Olaf Scholz, incumbent chancellor, reported that 47,000 people have been returned outside Germany since September. This German election campaign is revolving around two key themes: the economy and migration. Exactly 1 week from today, Germany will hold general elections, and the main topic of these elections is the issue of migration. There is a political taboo against limiting such migration, so in the manifesto of each party, you will find statements acknowledging the need to reduce the influx of migrants, but also arguments for letting in those who want to work in Germany. Germany is currently implementing the procedures of the Dublin Agreement, which gives countries the right to return illegal immigrants to the country where they first set foot in the European Union. We see that third countries don't necessarily want to take them in. Only 4 people in 2024 were accepted by Italy, for example. Germany is expanding a center for so-called Dublin migrants just across the border from Poland. According to German media, the center's location is not a coincidence. The center is to offer space for 150 to 250 people in 2 buildings. Interior Minister Lange told the Berliner Zeitung. Then we will have all the Dublin migrants in one central location. Because of their proximity to the Polish border, they can be sent there quickly. In the same article, a German administrative judge praised the attitude of the Polish government. Italy took back only 4 of the several thousand refugees in 2024, the administrative judge told Berliner Zeitung. Poland is quite different. The neighboring country accepts every captured Dublin migrant. However, most of those deported quickly return to Germany, often with the help of human traffickers. They praise Donald Tusk's government because Tusk's government actually accepts anyone Germany wants to send. They write them something in their document, anything really, and they say they came from Poland, and no one in Poland checks it. This is a major threat to our security today, and this transit center will only increase this problem. At a time when, according to official Bundestag figures, some 7,000 people were shunted to Poland between September and mid-November, Donald Tusk is nevertheless convincing his voters that we will not accept any immigrants. Olaf Scholz assures, however, not only Hungary, but also Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk says he will not implement the Migration Pact, but he will implement it, and we will benefit from it. This matter has already been settled, and it was settled with Donald Tusk. This is what Olaf Scholz said when asked if Poland would implement the provisions of the Migration Pact. In a subsequent radio interview, he confirmed that Poland, i.e. Prime Minister Donald Tusk, has agreed to accept migrants under this pact. However, it is worth pointing out that the Migration Pact that will be implemented in 2026 is only part of the problem. Every day, migrants are being sent back to Poland by the German authorities of border regions. Unfortunately, they are met with total passivity on part of the Polish authorities. How many times has it been already? Shocked citizens lay flowers for the victims of migrant terrorists. This time, it happened in Villach, Austria. An illegal Syrian immigrant pulled out a knife and attacked random people. A 14-year-old boy stood in his way and was murdered in cold blood. 4 other people were injured, 2 of them seriously. The 23-year-old Syrian was arrested immediately, but unfortunately, his attack resulted in a fatality. The victims have deep wounds. The perpetrator was an asylum seeker. Apparently, no one bothered to check if he was a threat, just like the Afghan man who was allowed to live a luxurious life in Munich. He drove a car at high speed into a crowd of people, and today, a girl and her mother who were injured in the attack have died.
I believe there is nothing more urgent than mass migration. Today, almost 1 in 5 people living in this country moved here from abroad.
This is the effect of a disastrous immigration policy. The left-wing madness that U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance spoke about in Munich, the same city where an attack took place.
No voter on this continent went to the ballot box to open the floodgates to millions of unvetted immigrants. But you know what they did vote for? In England, they voted for Brexit, and agree or disagree, they voted for it. And more all over Europe, they're voting for political leaders who promise to put an end to out-of-control migration. Now, I happen to agree with a lot of these concerns, but you don't have to agree with me. I just think that people care about their homes, they care about their dreams, they care about their safety and their capacity to provide for themselves.
Europe's left-wing political establishment disagrees, apparently preferring to risk the lives and well-being of their own citizens by letting in hordes of immigrants who are now terrorizing residents, raping women, and trashing cities. Terrorism in the form of, for example, people running around with Kalashnikovs in Brussels metro stations, daily explosions in Sweden, problems in Germany, problems in France. In Paris, some neighborhoods are no-go zones. Same thing in Sweden, in Belgium. There are places where the police just don't show up.
Decisions yesterday.
J.D. Vance accurately diagnosed the moral and cultural decline of Europe, the collapse of the Christian values on which it was built.
Is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. So I come here today not just with an observation, but with an offer. And just as the Biden administration seemed desperate to silence people for speaking their minds,
let me conclude, and this becomes difficult.
The truth can hurt, especially for Germany, but it would be foolish to expect self-reflection.
After the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore. I'm very grateful.
This is how the European establishment's vision of security is falling apart. Although, some leaders recognize that J.D. Vance's words were a cold shower for Europe.
This is also the moment, and I think the Americans are absolutely spot on this, when we start looking at interim security arrangements.
And they are reminded that Europe today is internally weak because it allows migrants to terrorize its citizens, does not guard its own borders, and does not allocate enough resources to defense.
President Trump has made abundantly clear he believes that our European friends must play a bigger role in the future of this continent. We don't think, you hear this term, burden sharing, but we think it's an important part of being in a shared alliance together that the Europeans step up while America focuses on areas of the world.
It's a remark largely aimed at Germany, which brought the migrant threat to Europe. I am convinced that, after the elections, there will be a majority in the Bundestag that will allow the possibility of increased spending, which is not possible at the moment. It is possible and even necessary to make immediate changes so that the most important values may return to their rightful place.
Across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat. And in the interest of comedy, my friends, but also in the interest of truth, I will admit that sometimes the loudest voices for censorship have come not from within Europe, but from within my own country, where the prior administration threatened and bullied social media companies, our own government.
It took an American vice president coming to Europe for the European political establishment to finally hear someone speak the truth to their faces.
Gathered here today. But while the Trump administration is very concerned with European security, good afternoon.
The agreement on American participation in the Ukrainian mineral market has yet to be signed by Ukrainian President Zelensky. According to Kyiv, the Americans failed to offer one key thing: security guarantees for Ukraine. There is nothing in this document specifically about security guarantees, and for me, it's very important to include some kind of security guarantees in the agreement. It was this deal that the Americans and Ukrainians were discussing behind the scenes in Munich. Kyiv's raw materials are supposed to be, on the one hand, an insurance policy for Ukraine's future, and, on the other, a justification to American taxpayers for spending their money in Ukraine. The Americans have more capabilities, more resources, and more influence, and they will be able to protect the territories with their investments, but also build factories that will be located in our country. In the future, this could turn into a real geopolitical alliance, so that we don't have to shed any more blood on Ukrainian territory.
Thank you so much.
The Americans claim that nothing has been decided yet. Kiev's proposals will be analyzed by Washington.
We're thankful for.
Minerals agreement between the United States and Ukraine is a game changer because President Trump can go to the American people and say Ukraine's not a burden, it's a benefit. They're sitting on top of $1 trillion worth of minerals that all of us can benefit from by aligning with the West.
Ukraine wants concrete statements from the Americans, but before they are made, the White House wants to know the Russian position. So, according to unofficial sources, high-level American and Russian politicians will meet in Saudi Arabia in the coming days.
Person from the United States.
A politician from the United States said to me, "We're not sure we're ready for ground forces." And I said, "What about naval forces?" So who knows where this is going? We have to work on it, but I think it's very important. As for security and military guarantees, they will have to come from a place of unity between the United States and European partners. But I think without the United States, the guarantees would be weak and insufficient. Although the Munich conference did not lead to any breakthroughs, it clearly outlined the new balance of power in which the Americans, above all, pushed aside the interests of Berlin or Paris. In this respect, it can be said that Washington is preparing for a geopolitical reshuffling.
Part of the problem that we looked at when you looked at Minsk too, there was a lot of people at the table that really had no ability to execute some type of peace process, and it failed miserably. So we're not going to go down that path.
The Americans talk about realism, but that's something that Berlin and Paris disagree with. Some Western European leaders even believe that Europe, led by Brussels, should take its own steps to counter Washington's tactics. French President Macron has called an emergency summit of European leaders for tomorrow in Paris to discuss the conclusions of the Munich conference. At least 18 people died and dozens were injured in a stampede at the main railway station in India's capital, New Delhi. A porter working at the station, who wished not to be named, said that the stampede started after a change in platforms for an incoming train was announced. There was a platform change announcement from platform number 12 to 16. The crowd on platform number 12 started rushing towards platform number 16, which was also crowded. This led to overcrowding and people were stuck. People started falling on the stairs and escalator. Then, all the porters ran to control the situation. We managed the crowd and rescued bodies from the rush. Then, we helped shift the bodies into ambulances. The incident occurred around 8 p.m. local time on Saturday, February 15th, on 2 platforms, as passengers waited to board trains to Prayagraj city, where the Hindu Mahakumbh festival is being hosted. In India, every few months, there is some sort of tragedy involving a panicked crowd. Most of these incidents take place during religious festivals or gatherings.